tell you real quick, Facebook is actually terrible, right? Like I like our group on Facebook, Fantasy Football Discussion. Those guys are amazing, but I hate Facebook because if we don't go live within 10 minutes of me actually scheduling it, then it completely like discontinues it off. And then we lose all of our Facebook listeners. And I can't have that happen because
also Facebook, it's just like, I've actually deleted my Facebook app. Like I still have my Facebook account.
Yeah, well, you have to.
But my app, like, oh my God, I just can't. Like, it's too much, especially being in Arkansas. Like, oh my God, it's too much.
Is it though?
Too much?
Is it?
In Arkansas, it is. It's too much because I don't want to hate. I don't want to hate people who are my friends. I don't want to see dumbass shit that people talk about.
I don't want to hate people who are my friends. Oh man. So yeah, we got this show to do. We got this live starter sit. Are you about ready to hit it? Are we about ready to go?
Let's go. I mean, this week, everything's up in the air. Let's just go. Hey, we can't make a bad take this week after last week. Like, let's just go.
All right, here we go. Where are we?
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Chase Vernon.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into yet another episode of Fantasy Intervention. Oh, yes, you are, of course, hosted by Chase Vernon, but I am not alone. I have next to me my puppy, Bentley Breeze, in here. He's coming to say what's up. And, of course, I have the wonderful Britt Flynn. How you doing, Britt? What's going on?
I'm so good, except just maybe a little deflated over last week trying to go for a rebound. Oh, your puppy.
Oh, dude, he is such a little monster. You know, gotta love him though, right, Bentley? Right?
Kiss me, kiss me.
Are we gonna talk some football, some waiver wires tonight?
See a little beagle mix,
boxer Rottweiler mix. So He's got a little bit of everything in him. Oh man, love this dog.
Grizz is a half lab, quarter blue heeler, quarter beagle. So I recognize that mix.
Oh, nice. There you go. I love that. That's very cool. So we do have the waiver wires to talk about, but before we get into waiver wires, I just want to do a quick recap of this past weekend. And honestly, the way that I have to do this recap is just this. It was from a home league, right? And this guy inside my home league had the literally like perfect lineup to describe this past weekend. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. I'm going to make it the whole screen, right? We have Dak Prescott with 7 points, Jonathan Taylor with 5.5, Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 2, Tyreek Hill with 3.5, Antonio Brown with 1.5, Logan Thomas with 6.5, Miles Sanders with 5.5, Chase Claypool with 8.5. Is this not the best lineup you've ever seen to describe a week in your entire life? Tell me that lineup is not perfect.
Yeah, because I had so many of those people in my own lineups just scattered sporadically out. It hurt. Week 2 hurt. And in my big money league, I played against one team with Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Lockett.
Ooh.
And it's a 4-player IDP league also. So we had the biggest opportunity to like blow up the IDP. But then I think he had like Buffalo's defense too against Miami. Like everything went wrong in every single league that we could have possibly asked for this week. It was just so bad.
I mean, we talk about like the Chargers and, Dallas, how we thought that was going to blow up. That did not blow up. We talked about how, I mean, what was it, the 49ers and the Eagles? We thought that might have a chance of actually
And
hitting. That's about
Cleveland,
it.
like if you look at the over-under and the point spreads, like that's how, you know, you're supposed to actually, that's how the people say you're supposed to construct your lineup, is base it on the point spread, base it on the over-under, like do this, especially in
You want
DFS.
teams on leagues that are scoring points, you know?
Oh my God. And the DFS, my husband actually called me and he was like, give me the optimizer for the late games. And it was like Justin Herbert as the quarterback, like Carson. I don't even think it was the late game, but Carson, Najee as the running backs, then CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, you know, all those optimizers. I scroll down and I go, yep, they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all the same. It did not work out that way at all. And it was so hurtful and painful. I'm glad the Cowboys won. And also, can I victory lap?
I don't even want to talk about that right now. I know that Keenan Allen still got over 100 yards, but that was so disappointing for me to see, you know, where we were at, where we could have been. Oh man, but yeah, you're right. Go ahead and talk about it real quick.
So I thought that, you know, Trayvon Diggs worked with CeeDee Lamb a lot out of the slot in training camp. I know that he's not typically a slot corner. Everyone thought that Jordan Lewis would be on Keenan Allen since he typically worked out of the slot, and that Mike Williams would be with Keenan Allen. I thought the opposite. And it just kind of happened to work the way that I thought. Yeah. And I'm not victory lapping at all about it. I'm not at all.
Well, right, like that would have been an excellent victory lap, except for you're talking about how Trayvon Diggs worked with Keenan Allen, right, out of the slot. And then of course you have Keenan Allen, who ended up matching up across from Trayvon Diggs, excuse me. We both butchered that. So yeah, no, it's something as to where we definitely you know, want to see a little bit of something different coming up. But yeah, I mean, talk about one of the games that surprised you this week.
The first half of last night's game, honestly, the fact that we went to halftime tied with the Lions and the Packers.
Yeah, no, the Lions and Packers game was definitely a little bit of a surprise. Sorry, I actually had Matt from Trophy Smack on the phone. He was calling me. You know, that's
nice.
One of my connections. Yeah, so of course, go check out trophysmack.com if you want a trophy. Use promo code CIRCLE. Use promo code CIRCLE in order to get that discount. And you actually get a free $60 championship ring if you use promo code CIRCLE on trophysmack.com. But yeah, so yeah, there was definitely one of the surprising games. But I think some of the like actual good things that came out of this were some of the potential buys when it came to the waiver wire, right? Like some of those potential players that we can pick up this upcoming week who actually have that immense upside. So let's go ahead and break into that real quick. Let's talk about some of these waiver wires. And I want to start out with the quarterback position, just like we always do. You know, some people stream quarterbacks. Some people end up having 2 quarterback leagues and they didn't know who to play. So if you have one of these, you know, players already, if these players are taken up, we do have some deeper options for you later on. But Kirk Cousins is going to be the first one on my list. I mean, the Seahawks, right? Kirk Cousins does the Seahawks in week 3. And the Seahawks have given up close to 600 yards in the air so far on the year. Now, Derrick Henry stole all of Tannehill's touchdowns, right? But Kirk Cousins moving forward, I mean, you have the Seahawks and you have Cleveland, Detroit, Carolina, who you can't run against Carolina as of right now. So I think that Kirk Cousins is actually an excellent play at only 30% roster percentage. Is Kirk Cousins somebody that you're trying to target, you know, as somebody as a streaming option for single quarterback leagues, or are you staying away from that one?
I'm really actually shocked because I was completely against Kirk Cousins going into everything, like with the sacks, with the interception propensity. I will say in that big, like $225 league that my husband and I are co-owners in, last year after Dak got hurt, I said, we have to stream Kirk Cousins. And it was that week 6 where he basically had negative points. And my husband was like, why did you tell me to do Kirk Cousins? Don't do this, don't do that. But then it was just the volume and everything overall. Like Kirk will sling it. So I think you always have a benefit, especially if you're not in like a Scott Fishbowl type thing or a Warriable type thing where you get negative points for sacks or interceptions, like incrementally negative points like that. But Kirk has looked actually good this year. He really hasn't thrown any interceptions this season. He's spreading it out between Thielen, between Jefferson, and KJ Osborne. Spoiler alert, stay tuned. We will talk about him a lot. And even though we didn't get like Elijah Vera Tucker, I have a friend who lives right next door to me who's a Vikings fan and was texting me during the draft and was very upset about that. But I still think that they did make some improvements on their offensive line. And also possibly with Dalvin Cook being less than 100%, like Kirk's going to have to keep throwing it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that Kirk Cousins is a major, major target in this one. If you're talking about, FAAB that you want to throw at him, if you are somebody that's streaming, I mean, I think that he's worth, because he is going to give you 4 or 5 games in a row that he can actually be startable in. I think that you could actually play him and throw 15%, 10% of FAAB if you need a quarterback. Let's say you had Tua Tagovailoa, right? And Kirk Cousins is on your waivers. I think the 10% of FAAB is not out of the question. 50% of FAAB is not out of the question if he's out there on your waivers.
I love it. I completely agree with that.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next quarterback that I have in Derrick Carr, right? He's under 22% of leagues. He has Miami coming up. And after that, it's actually brutal. He has the Chargers after that, but, and I don't want anything to do with that. I think that just for this week, I think that he's playable.
I don't know with this ankle injury. I'm a little worried. I kind of want to see if he's going to be healthy, if he is going to be like, I don't know the severity of his ankle injury, but if it isn't severe, absolutely. My husband and I were talking about that too, because we have a guy in our league who's, I don't know if I should spoil this or not, but Deadpool Raider. And he always loves Carr, and he's actually done pretty well this season, shockingly, against some pretty, defenses who everyone thought were going to be pretty stout. So if his ankle's good and he can spread the ball out, I love him. But I'm just going to wait a little bit and see if he's actually healthy and the severity on his ankle injury.
Yeah, I mean, he got rolled up on, but he did finish the game overall. And from what I'm looking at, I'm not seeing anything crazy on Derrick Carr as we speak. I think he's still going to be a good option. And up against Miami, they actually suffer pretty tremendously up against the tight end position. Like when we talk about, the receptions they've allowed 8 so far this season, 73 yards. And I mean, that was up against the Patriots. And Dawson Knox, he got a touchdown on just 3 targets. We're talking about Darren Waller. We're talking about Foster Moreau. We're talking about guys that operate in the middle of the field with Hunter Renfrow as well. I mean, we could see Derrick Carr absolutely take advantage of that up against Miami. And honestly, all he needs to do is get these touchdowns in, right? So they can run, constantly up against this Miami team. They could use the running backs in the passing game. So you can get these short yardage. Once you get in the red zone, I mean, he's targeting Waller, right? He's targeting Kenyon Drake as well in the passing game, like we just talked about. I think that Derrick Carr could offer that touchdown upside that could at least save you, for this week if you're in a tough situation. Maybe you don't have a quarterback to start and you need to get that guy in. I think it's a reasonable start at that point. But, yeah, I mean, I can understand being a little bit hesitant after getting rolled up on last week. So let's bounce over to the next quarterback with Darnold, right? We have him against Houston. Houston has Davis Mills at quarterback. Go ahead.
I'm just so shocked. Like, you still have Deshaun Watson as a healthy scratch, and you're going to go up against Carolina, who I've been really having a big like cognitive dissonance moment about. Like, is Carolina's defense actually good? Are they actually going to like stop these quarterbacks? Because they kind of have. Like, the first week they played the Jets, but then last week the Saints. And yes, of course, like the Saints offensive, they had 8 or so coaches out, but they just demolished them and made them look very shameful. And so with a rookie quarterback, I think that Darnold actually, well, and it's kind of the thing. How are you high on Robbie Anderson? How are you high on DJ Moore? How are you high on Terrace Marshall? And you're not high on Darnold. Like, it doesn't compute. So Darnold has to be good if you guys like these people. And he's pretty much shown that he is going to be good. And it's just a different style of gameplay. And his defense is giving him all the things that he needs. And, you know, Houston, yeah, of course they did well against Jacksonville and whatever, but Jacksonville sucks. I'm sorry to tell you, but Jacksonville sucks.
Well, I think the biggest thing in this is the fact that you're going to have Davis Mills, who, you know, he wasn't very good in preseason. He didn't really stand out that much in the offseason camp reports, of course. And then, you know, Tyrod Taylor is obviously not part of the team. So Davis Mills is going to be taking this team over. He could struggle tremendously, which could leave them with plenty of red zone opportunities, plenty of short fields. My one concern is that Houston tries to slow down the clock a little bit, you know, tries to eat up a little bit more clock than what they have allowed previously, because I believe they're 6th in offensive plays run. I don't know that that's going to be the case. You know, you can't run up against Carolina. So I'm thinking that, man, like Darnold should absolutely be a smash. Plus his upcoming schedule's nuts.
No, and also Joe Brady. I'm really not a fan of like people going from college right into the NFL. But Joe Brady has shown he has the huevos and what it takes.
It's that New Orleans passing game.
It really, really, he just knows what's going to go on and what's going to go. And I think I'm not going to like tout SEC West, like pro style, whatever, but I kind of am. But any quarter or any coach from the SEC West, you always run a pro style offense, and then it translates very well to the NFL. And I think that Joe Brady has done a very good job with that.
Yeah, no. And like I said, he came from the Saints. So it's a Saints style offense that he's now implementing over there. And I think it's, you know, it's going pretty well overall. He's spreading the ball out. He's, you know, utilizing these guys in the right situations that they need to get utilized in, something that, you know, we've seen earlier in the days of the Saints. So I really like that moving forward. I think that Sam Darnold's a smash. Let me go ahead and read off this schedule real quick for Sam Darnold. He has Dallas, Philadelphia, Minnesota, the Giants, Atlanta, New England, Arizona. New England sounds a little bit tough. Arizona still remains to be seen, but I really like that schedule going forward. I don't know about you.
I don't think you can count out Dallas after what they did against the Chargers, but I mean, it just is what it is. But yeah, I think overall the schedule is very favorable.
All right, so let's go ahead and answer this question from a listener. Jose Calderon says, need a tight end in this guillotine league. Guy with Kittle just got chopped. What percentage of FAAB would you throw at him? 25, maybe more. Really depends on how much you have. Also, your competition. George Kittle has not looked great to start out the year. However, the running back situation over there for the 49ers is not good. It's actually pretty brutal as a whole. So they're going to have to pass. George Kittle should be using these short to intermediate routes in order to get these first downs that the running backs would normally have to get. And if, you know, we keep on seeing the struggles from the running back position over there. I mean, Trenton Cannon's the second string running back. Meanwhile, Elijah Mitchell, who didn't do well last week, is the starting running back. I mean, dude, yeah, I probably throw a good percentage. I'm thinking probably 40% at George Kittle, because I know it's tough with Guillotine League, but first off, how often of a chance will you have to get a top 3 tight end? You know, top 4 tight end, arguably with Hawkinson in there now, maybe even top 5. But how often we have these chances to get these top end guys? Meanwhile, I think that they could treat him, you know, kind of like Juju Smith-Schuster was treated last year for the Steelers, where they used him as kind of like the outlet type, you know, receiver. Do you have a different take on that?
Well, I think Kittle, everyone's like trying to kind of be out on him just because of how crazy and chaotic weeks 1 and 2 have been, you know, but with the running backs out, with, you know, Ayuk really not doing anything, Kittle's going to get his. Kittle is going to get his. And even just to kind of segue, Waller only had like 11 points last week. So you can't just go out on your big 3 tight ends just because of one bad week. I think it's going to happen, and you really need to get a good big tight end, a good top 3 tight end.
It'll separate you in these guillotine leagues. So I'm 100% on board with that. Let's go ahead and hop over to the running back position. Running backs are a little tough. Like, I'm sitting there going through the waivers, and I'm like, dude, I really don't like any of these guys that all these people are recommending. Like, I don't want to pick up Trenton Cannon. It was kind of like Elijah Mitchell last week. I didn't want to pick him up to play up against the Eagles, but count me out on that one.
Shout out to everyone who didn't spend FAAB on Elijah Mitchell or Hasty or anyone.
I spent a little bit on Hasty. I think I did 15% on Hasty, and then he ended up getting hurt, which was a bummer because
I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. Well, but also I drafted Sermon, and that didn't work out well either. So
that fumble, man, that fumble.
His head got knocked into his shoulder. Like,
yeah, it did. You're right. It was
bad.
It's a concussion. You got me caught. It's a concussion. But for the running backs, I don't even need to mention Tony Pollard, right? Like, everybody's saying, oh, you know, let's talk about Tony Pollard. We don't need to mention Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard should have already been on your list. Like, if you didn't have Tony Pollard on your roster already, you're probably not going to be able to get him. And if you are going to get him, you're going to have to spend a shitload of FAAB in order to get him. So I don't even want to talk about that. I think it's a waste of breath. I've already spent too much time on it.
Can I mention something about this though?
Let's go. Yep.
So actually last week, Zeke had 71% of the snap count, and Pollard only had 34% of the snap count. And I think it was a little bit more of a continuation about what they use Zeke for against like Tampa. They used him more as a run blocker versus more as a runner. And even when they did the 2 running back sets, Pollard was out there and Zeke was blocking. So I'm still hesitant on Tony Pollard. Maybe I'm hedging a little bit because I just want Zeke to still be my boy. But looking at the snap count, I'm still just not all in on Pollard.
Hey, Zeke is out there doing his job, right? Like, that's his job. Tony Pollard's job is to run the ball. So either way, Tony Pollard, you're probably not getting them. And if you are, you're going to have to put down a big chunk of your FAAB. But Kenny Gainwell is still only 42% rostered. And I think it could actually be a drop candidate because of his dud performance.
Mm-hmm.
See, I want to know what the hell happened, though. Like, you have a recipe in order to beat San Francisco. I mean, we talk about last week, right? And where am I? I think that, it was something like along the lines of, where am I? 40% or so of their yardage came in like the fourth quarter up against the pass catching backs and target wise. They just figured out how to beat them after halftime. Meanwhile, you talk about Kenny Gainwell, you talk about Miles Sanders, those 2 combined for 3 targets. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It just blows my mind. Like, they had something like 96 yards out of their 157 yards, I believe, after halftime because they figured out how to beat them. And now all of a sudden Philly goes out there and they had an excellent play call in week 1, and then they just go out there and blow it in week 2.
Well, also, Sanders had 67% of the snaps, while Gainwell only had 33% of the snaps. What's positive for Gainwell is that there was still no Boston Scott out there.
Yes, thank God.
So there was still no Boston Scott. I think Gainwell is just the better back. They're trying to figure out how to kind of leverage everything and figure everything out. But in the next, maybe don't start Gainwell, but in the next few weeks or so, I think Gainwell is going to evolve into that Boston Scott role and get that pass catch role, and he's going to be good. So don't panic on Gainwell.
Yeah, don't drop him. And if he's out there, I would actually pick him up post waiver wires. If somebody does drop him, he does have an advantageous matchup coming up. So yes, Kenny Gainwell is an absolute grab for me still this upcoming week. All right, then we have another player who, I don't know, the fantasy community shunned for a while. And it's because he was more of a gadget player, but it seems like he's developing an actual role in this offense. When we talk about Cordero Patterson, he's on 14.7% of leagues. And I mean, the Giants, they're stout up front. They look really good. Leonard Williams looks really good. And without that 70-yard run by Gordon, the Giants would be allowing under 4 yards per carry. You beat the Giants with the running backs in the receiving game. This is just something that you do. If you guys go check out the DOCE score, DOCE, on fantasyintervention.com. Once again, that's DOCE on fantasyintervention.com. You guys can see all the rankings from 2020. Last year, the Giants weren't good. However, they improved across their defensive line. Or they couldn't stop the run. I'm sorry. They were really bad up against pass catching running backs. That continued this year. Their defensive line has stayed the same. They've actually improved a little bit. And they've kind of let the receivers catch balls out of the backfield. So when
look at McKissick.
Yeah. McKissick just had 83 yards on how many receptions? So it's already continuing this year. And although I've not released my 2021 DOCE scores yet, I will tell you that the Giants have not been pretty so far. They've been one of the worst teams. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at a smash play for Cordero Patterson, as we were going to watch Dave Montgomery just run his head up into a brick wall time and time again. He might end up with 100 yards on 25 carries. But the real beneficiary of this could be Cordero Patterson, who is very scarcely rostered across all leagues.
I'm just kind of scared. I really want him, and I'm actually writing about him as a value DFS play this week. But also my value DFS plays have just like shit the bed because of just how crazy everything's been this past, 2 weeks. But I really do like him. And it's his pass catching ability, like the way that I have not been in on Mike Davis at all the entire offseason. Like, I am not in on Mike Davis at all. I like, the short dump off passes. I like everything like that, but I'm still a little bit wary on his ceiling and his floor. Just because the Falcons have like such a tough schedule going forward. But if you really need somebody, and like especially in a PPR league, like go for it. I'm gonna go for it. I'm being totally honest. Just because the running back situation is so bad and everybody's hurt. But just proceed with caution.
Now, the next running back that I have is somebody that everybody's completely shunned from the community as well, but he actually used to be good back in the day. That's David Johnson, who, Nico Collins is now out, right? Like with an injury. We have Andre Roberts, Danny Amendola, Pharaoh Brown as their pass catching options. It's almost embarrassing to an extent. Meanwhile, we had 15 routes run over there by David Johnson this past week. The week before that, he was up there. I think it was like 12 or so, or somewhere in that range. He is literally getting the routes, and he's lining up as wide receiver as well. So he's on the field. We're talking about third down opportunities. And now we're talking about Davis Mills, who comes in, who is going to have to check the ball off because he's not as talented at getting outside the pocket and creating space and opportunities for his receivers to create space as Tyrod Taylor was. So instead of sitting there and seeing a rollout opportunity, maybe a rushing opportunity, we're going to see Davis Mills check down to David Johnson way more often, in my opinion. I think that David Johnson could be a smash play moving forward. He's already given you 2 weeks of decent fantasy production in the flex spot. Not great, but decent. And we could see that uptick moving forward. You're shaking your head. I see you.
I kind of disagree, just because I think that Houston is basically tanking, and their offensive line is barf. And I just don't think that they have any kind of incentive to even make any of these players okay. And so I'm just really skeptical. And I could totally be wrong, because they actually have been really good in the past 2 weeks, but I'm just really skeptical about it.
Yeah, they have been competitive. However, when we sit there and we talk about like GMs try to lose, coaches always try to win. Players always try to win. Like they're playing for the next contract. They're playing for the next opportunity. And David Johnson, obviously Davis Mills doesn't want to get killed. So as long as the coaches give David Johnson an opportunity to get in there and get snaps, which he has over the first 2 weeks, on third downs and whatnot, we could actually see David Johnson succeed in a pass catching role that, guess what, nobody else on the team is able to do. Sure, Phillip Lindsey did have a receiving touchdown this past week. Chalk that up for one of the outliers of his entire career, as he saw like a.
I don't know. I like Lindsey as the pass catching running back in Houston.
Man, he can't catch though. He can't catch. He had what, a 50% catch rate last year, and I think it was like 70% the year before that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Phillip Lindsey is not the pass catching back. He's not good at catching passes. He never has been. He's just that small scat back type player. I'm sorry.
I said, but nobody's good in Houston. Like, we're just going to have to watch it.
Is good in small doses in Houston. He's good as long as he doesn't have to run into the middle of a black hole every time he goes up against a terrible, or I should say goes up against a good defense with a terrible offensive line, which he always has. But on the outside, he can make players miss, and he's shown it so far over the first 2 weeks in the receiving game. So let's go ahead and move on to our next position, right? We have the wide receivers. What's up, Husker, by the way, in the chat? What's going on, man? Hope you're having a good post-week 2, pre-week 3, I guess, gap in time. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop onto this. Let's go to the wide receivers. And honestly, like, I've been sitting there talking about Rondale Moore as the guy who's going to break rookie receiving records if he can stay healthy. I mean, literally been talking about this since the night of the draft. I've been like, this guy is going to break the records held by Anquan Bolden for 101 receptions. If you didn't get him already, it's not likely that you're going to get him. However, if you still can get him, yeah, snag him when you can. However, we got another running back on this list because I don't think you're going to disagree with me on the Rondale Moore, correct?
Running back or wide receiver?
Wide receiver. I apologize. Wide receiver.
Well, I have a couple little stats on Rondale Moore.
Go ahead. Let's go. Bring it up.
He played less than half the snaps. He played 28 snaps out of 61, and he still put up 114 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he's sick. He's ridiculously good. It's insane.
It's the effing yak. I didn't want to say the F word, but the yak on that dude is just insane.
Yeah, no, he's somebody that makes a play with the ball in his hands, and he's able to be used behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's literally like another version of Deebo Samuel, who's faster, maybe stronger, arguably, and he's, healthy. Deebo Samuel hasn't been able to say that over his career.
And I love him. I love him. I hate him as an SEC West Arkansas person who got completely torched by him in the Chad Morris years, but
So let's talk about this next guy with KJ Osborne, because a lot of people are hopping on him, right? However, this upcoming week might be more of a Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen type game. Seahawks have actually been good against the slot so far this season. Even A.J. Brown, who lined up in the slot, I want to say like 24 times, ? It was up there, though. He lined up in the slot a good amount, had trouble producing. I mean, it's something I swear I like KJ Osborne for his future with Cleveland, Detroit, and Carolina, but I'm picking him up if I can. I just don't want to blow the bank on him. We don't even know. We don't know what's going to happen with him. He's, getting all these, fantasy points off of big time targets. I think this is something I swear people are focusing so heavily on Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and expecting 2 tight end sets, because that's what the Vikings have always ran. They very rarely ran 3 receiver sets, that they were not prepared for Osborne. Is this something I swear we could fade Osborne? Or are you still on Osborne?
Oh, I'm completely on Osborne. His target share, his yak, his snap percentage. He played 80% of all snaps last week. I think a lot of people are more focused on covering Thielen and Jefferson, and then that just leaves Osborne out deep. And I'm sorry, the Vikings defense isn't that good. They're gonna have to throw the ball, and especially with Dalvin Cook possibly being limited and worrying about his health, they're gonna have to throw. They still don't have Irv Smith. Their tight ends aren't that great. I mean, I'm picking up KJ Osborne personally in a lot of leagues because I love the kid.
Yeah, I do like KJ Osborne's skills. I like that, he has a chance to produce, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. That's why I said pick him up, put him on your bench. expect him to fail this week. If he does succeed, that's even better, because guess what? He'd be even tougher to pick up the following week. But I do like that. We do have a question coming in from Colby Colston. What's everyone's feelings on starting Ayuk? Is he not supposed to be the number one receiver for the 49ers? I don't know if you were on the show with me last week when we covered this, but no, he's not supposed to be the number one receiver for the 49ers. This is
Shanahanigans.
That's right. That's what you call it.
Shanahanigans.
The Shanahanigans. No, so I mean, yeah, Ayuk had a very, very small sample size without George Kittle and Deebo Samuel on the field at the same time. Now that he's seen a sample size with them on the field, he's not succeeding, which was evident back, with the play calling prior to. Ayuk is more of a gadget type player. He was forced into a role because they didn't have Kittle, because they didn't have literally half their offense anyways. He's not the number one wide receiver. That was fake news throughout all the hype, trained people who studied him throughout his rookie season, who, saw him produce throughout his rookie season and then started talking about it nonstop. And guess what? There's an echo chamber on Facebook. There's an echo chamber on Twitter. We see it happen all the time with Brandon Ayuk. Now, he does have a follow-up question. Should he be dropped or traded? I would not drop Ayuk. I think that he still has potential to go off, and we're seeing what happens with the San Francisco offense. They are always hurt. So,
and I said that last week, and also in the Sunday podcast with Kevin and Gary. Deebo has always seemed to get hurt, so I don't think I would let go of Ayuk. But as the weeks progress, just keep an eye on him, because I don't think he's going to have a high target share unless somebody does get hurt.
Yeah, I'm just not on Ayuk. I think that you shouldn't drop him, because you'll never know when somebody does get hurt, like she just brought up. But trading him is a very real possibility for me. If I can get a running back, a fringe, flex-worthy running back, I'd probably take it. Somebody like an A.J. Dillon, maybe, who has potential to start at some point throughout this year, who has potential to go off. A Tony Pollard might be a better example, more higher-end example. Maybe even Kareem Hunter. So honestly, I don't know who's going to have more starter weeks by the end of the season. It's both slow starts. It really just depends on your roster. If the wide receiver, I trade him for Rondale Moore in a heartbeat. Send me Rondale Moore right now. I've been taking Rondale Moore in dynasty leagues over Ayuk. If Ayuk ever failed me at that point, like I said, in a heartbeat. Go check that out. I would not drop Ayuk, but he can be traded. So let's hop on to this next wide receiver who impressed last night, Quintez Cephas. And when Quintez Cephas came out, he was one of the most raw route runners that we ever saw. I mean, it was funny. You sit there and you read some of the reports of Quintez Cephas coming out, and they're like, "Oh, he's a monotone route runner." I'm like, how much could you insult somebody more than calling him? I mean, I would rather be
monotone.
I'd rather say that you suck at route running, because that means that you made it in the NFL in some other way than monotone. Oh my God, monotone is one of the worst things that you could possibly say about route running for a wide receiver. But Quintez Cephas, the best thing about it is you can improve your route running. And Quintez Cephas has shown to do that. He's getting separation. He's making these contested catches. I mean, he almost came down with a crazy catch in the end zone, and he looks like a stud. He looks like a stud. I mean, Shane's in the chat. Dude, he looked so good last night. And, as we move forward and we look at it, yeah, it's a lot easier for a wide receiver draft in the 5th round to get open when he has, 7 seconds to pass with Jared Goff back there behind a very good offensive line. But either way, I mean, he's going to be fed targets. And whether he turns out to be great, turns out to be a stud, it's probably going to take him some time, but he's going to get peppered with targets up until then, and he's going to be forced to produce. So I'm all over Quintez Cephas. I have been now for 2 weeks after I saw his week 1 usage and after I saw the reports coming out. And then Tyrell Williams gets hurt. I'm like, yes, give me Quintez Cephas all day long. I have him in almost every single dynasty league, and he looked great last night. Not his overall, I guess, skill level, but the fact that he did get peppered with targets, and he did come down with almost a couple of great contested catches.
Well, and I will say for sure, I was all on the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm like, Jared Goff is the check down king. He doesn't have Cooper Kupp anymore because he's in Detroit. He needs a slot receiver, who St. Brown was. And I'm like, St. Brown's going to be the dude. And it just completely transformed with that better O-line in Detroit. And now he's slinging and doing all the things. And I mean, he did check a couple things to like St. Brown or whatever, but I just expected him to be like check down king, like St. Brown was going to be the dude. But Cephas has got the looks. He's got the looks. He's got the looks. Like, honestly, he's got the looks. So I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And also, Green Bay's defense kind of looked pretty poopy. So until like the second half, but Cephas didn't really get a lot of looks in the second half. But so then you kind of have to think about, like, was it just Green Bay's bad offense, or was it, the Lions' good offense? But if you think about that, it's just Green Bay's, good defense. So I'm really interested in seeing what they'll do going forward. Because, I mean, the Lions have kind of, they almost shocked San Fran. They almost shocked Green Bay, aside from, they were tied when they went into halftime. So.
Well, you do have, Be More, of course, up next, and then Chicago, Minnesota, Cincinnati, the Rams with Jalen Ramsey playing on the inside, Philly. So, like I said, I don't think he's a great wide receiver, but the opportunity should come. Quintez Cephas is up there, but this is my number one.
He's got the looks.
He does. This is my number one waiver wire outside of Rondo Moore, and that's Quez Watkins. He had a disappointing week 1 where he saw 3 catches, 23 yards, but he did get the targets early on in the game. And he comes out in week 2, puts up 2 receptions on 2 targets for 117 yards. And I mean, like he ended up having the big play where he should have probably had a touchdown on that. I mean, we had so many different opportunities for Quez Watkins to go off, and he showed us that he can. This is a player that should be utilized pretty heavily in this Eagles offense out of the slot, and he's only in his second year. And he was, a 7th-round draft pick, 6th-round draft pick? So he has, he has some developmental issues, obviously, that are concerned about. As he continues to play, he's going to continue to get better. And Quintez Cephas should be a smash play moving forward. You could end up having a starting, wide receiver, top 36 by the end of this. Pick him up now.
Well, and another positive thing about what Watkins did, he's only had 29 snaps out of 58, and he still put up the 117 yards. So
yeah, that's insane.
He played like half the damn snaps and then put up over 100 yards. So he's got the look. I'm not trying to
another one.
Not trying to keep throwing 80s montages in there, but he's got the look.
Well, do we have a bonus one that I want to talk about very briefly? And that's Emanuel Sanders. And Emanuel Sanders was targeted multiple times inaccurately by Josh Allen. He had multiple different opportunities to actually perform, get touchdowns, and Josh Allen and him just could not connect. I mean, there was one where Josh Allen threw it to him late. There's another one where Josh Allen overthrew him. There's another one where he's running towards the sideline and Josh Allen threw it way too wide. So Josh Allen does not look normal right now, but he got the opportunities. He was running the routes. He saw the air yards necessary to put up the big plays. I think that Emanuel Sanders should at least be on the cusp of a waiver wire pickup, and for deeper leagues, if he's out there, I'm grabbing him just to make sure that, I have that wide receiver too, and an offense where Josh Allen should kind of straighten and narrow his path a little bit.
And not to be political at all, but if Cole Beasley gets COVID or whatever, I know that Cole Beasley is the main slot guy, but
yeah, true.
Gabe Davis really hasn't, and I'll completely say this, I thought Gabe Davis was going to be the red zone dude in the case of COVID protocols or whatever. If Beasley or Davis or whoever goes out, Manny Sanders is going to be the dude. He's not washed. He's just kind of been spread around with a lot of different teams.
Yeah, I mean, well, Gabriel Davis, like he was hurt, so they held him out of a few snaps that he should have gotten. And I like Gabe Davis. I'm not saying drop Gabe Davis, but I think that this offense can support 3 different pass catchers, 4 different pass catchers without a blink. And like I said, for the deeper leagues is where I would take the shot on Manny Sanders. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the tight end position. Dawson Knox. I mean, you want, once again, back to the Manny Sanders, corollary, like you want pieces in this offense, and, up against like the teams they're about to face, like they have Washington next, right? And Washington, we have Cook, right? Jerry Cook, who did well up against Washington in week 1, and then Smith and Rudolph, which are nobodies in the receiving game for the tight end position. They did well up against Washington in week 2. So Buffalo should score. They should be in the red zone pretty consistently. And I think the tight end should get plenty of work. That leads Dawson Knox, who pretty much is the only tight end in this offense. Last year, we had the fight, right, between the 2 tight ends. We don't have to deal with that this year. It's just Dawson Knox. So I think that Dawson Knox is probably my top tight end pickup on the week. Do you have another one, or is that where you're landing as well?
Well, no. When I was flipping through my my little legal pad, I kind of mentioned this on Twitter yesterday about how to not punt on tight end, because there's such a disparity in between, like, I'm just going to read it. So
do it.
between, this was obviously before like the game last night. So the Hawk stat isn't real, or it's probably close though, honestly. But the number 1 tight end is Kelsey with 26.3 points per game. Hawk with 25.7 points per game. Gronk with 24.5. Waller with 20.5. Then at the number 5, Fant with 12.8.
Ooh.
And then it goes Logan Thomas with 10.8. Juwan Johnson with 10.2. Pitts with 9.7. Doyle with 9.3. And Dawson Knox with 8.9.
So he's up there.
If you didn't pick like one of those main tight ends, it's going to be gross. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the tight end is just such, can I say a shit show?
Yeah, you can say that.
It's a shit show. But it really is. And so it's not even, I don't even think like it's about target share. It's about the tight end position just isn't as valuable as it has been in years past. And so unless you get like a tight end who is like the target monster and like the number 1 target on your team, it's just not going to be good. And then it's just like a pick 'em.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that, and that's why I think Dawson Knox could actually be that guy that gets you in the end zone, because you need a touchdown from the tight end position in order to pick a guy up off waivers.
Well, that's why I said he's 10. Dawson Knox is 10 out of everyone. Nobody would have expected him to be number 10 out of everyone.
And after or up against Washington, I think that's an absolute slam dunk. So the other one is Max Williams, who's only rostered in 1% of leagues. The Jags have already allowed 16 targets to tight end position in just 2 games. That resulted in under 130 yards and a touchdown. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Williams, who saw 7 targets last week on 24 routes, 29.2% target share on routes run. He also got it for 94 yards. Demetrius Harris wasn't even active, I don't believe. And if he was, he didn't get any snaps in there. I'm thinking we're going to see a big week from Max Williams up against Jacksonville. And I think he's going to be involved primarily on 3rd down situations this upcoming week. You could also see some deep targets. I believe his longest went for 34 yards this past one. I mean, we're talking about some massive points being put up by this Arizona Cardinals offense. Once again, I want tight ends in offenses that are going to be in the red zone. I think Max Williams is that guy this week.
Yeah, I haven't written my my value play, but Max Williams was on my value play. So thanks for for calling me out on that. But he had a 90.4 rating on PFF for the tight end this past week.
Yeah, oh, he was amazing. It was
I
incredible.
mean,
One of
he
the best
was
tight ends in the league.
good. He was good. And Arizona's offense, I'm sorry, Chase Edmonds, and I love James Conner. I love James Conner. But Chase Edmonds and James Conner are not the dudes. This is a pass first offense, and that's all they're going to do. And you have Williams, you have Rondell Moore, you've got Hopkins, you've got Kirk. Like, you've on a pass heavy offense, like that's just who you have to go for.
Oklahoma Doug comes in and says, Dan, MF and Arnold on this list. Nope, he ain't on this list, dog, because guess what? The Carolina Panthers don't use the tight end position that often, although he has looked better.
And
the
I
reports are great.
Hey, Oklahoma Doug, I will fully take responsibility because I thought the Darnold to Arnold connection was a real thing. And I got screwed by it. And it hurts.
Hey, he did put up 8.5 points this past week in PPR leagues for ESPN.
Well, for tight ends, that's pretty good.
He said, yes, ma'am. All right, so let's go ahead and let's close out the show with just a couple flyers at the tight end position. Foster Moreau is on this list. As mentioned with Carr, Miami struggles against the tight end. Moreau is the actual tight end on this team. Darren Waller is the wide receiver. Halfway kidding with this. I mean, Moreau still saw 52 snaps this past week. I think that Moreau could easily end up in the end zone again. He was on the field in week 1. He just didn't see the targets. I think that could change this upcoming week up against a weak Miami team on the interior. We talk about Byron Jones, right? We talk about Xavier Howard, how great of a duo this is for the cornerback position. You're going to have to beat him somehow, and I think Moreau could be that way. Meanwhile, with the Browns tight ends, I'm going to read something off real quick. Hooper had a 24.2% target share when running a route. And Njoku had a 26.7% target share while running a route. Harrison Bryant had a 30% target share while running a route. Meanwhile, Bryant ran routes on 87% of his snaps, and then 16 of the 20 routes were either in the slot or out wide. He had 4 receptions on 4 targets for 49 yards. I know that's a lot to digest.
Well, and also, everything. Jarvis got put on IR, and we don't know if Odell Beckham's going to come back. So who the hell are they going to throw the ball to if not the tight end? He's not a thing. He's not a thing. He is a thing. He's not a thing. He's not a thing.
Say that. We don't say that here.
Nope, he's not a thing.
Oh, man. No, I love Donovan Peoples-Jones. Obviously, he's going to have to.
I want him to be a thing. Don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be a thing.
So, as for the tight ends, I think that you got to somehow sneak into your lineups if he's out there. However, he's taking lineups. And Njoku is a little bit too sketchy for me because he doesn't catch every ball thrown his way. I think that Harrison Bryant is a sneaky play this week for deep leagues. I think he could be the actual go-to.
I think Bryant's used more in the blocking scheme. I like Njoku more as a pass-catching back or pass-catching tight end, not a back. But I got really sidetracked. All the cats and dogs just came out of the house. But I think Njoku, I've always loved Njoku, and then his ACL happened, and then all the things happened. But hey, Chris, you went up here? Sorry. Yeah. He's old. He's 8 years old. He doesn't give a shit. Oh my God. Yep. There's the light. There's the light. That's what happened. It's
so real quick.
Old men don't care.
Doug said Ricky Seals-Jones getting a tad more love. With oh wait, I missed a question up here, but I'll come back to that. Ricky Seals-Jones getting a tad more love. Yeah, he got that red zone reception. He is getting more work in this offense. We have to see what happens with Curtis Samuel moving forward, but for now, I'm leaving Ricky Seals-Jones on the benches. Like I said, for now, I just don't know when I can start him. I just don't know.
Yeah, right. I can't start Ricky Seals-Jones.
All right, so we do have one question, then we're going to hop off. We have Pittman Claypool for wide receiver 3, and same 2, and or Jacobs in the flex. Wait. It's Tuesday. Hunter. Tomorrow night, we have a big time show, right? We do a big show. It's our show of the week. It's at Wednesday night at 9:00.
Well, and
we do all start sit stuff.
Also, like, Ben Roethlisberger. Well, I just had to think about this for a second. Roethlisberger might have a pec injury. Wentz has double ankle injuries. Like, how are we supposed to answer this right now until we actually have the injury designations?
Yeah, it's a little bit tough. And I mean, we also have a show on Sunday morning as well. I'm gonna wait to answer this question for you until tomorrow, Hunter. If you want to come on tomorrow night, 9:00, I will answer for you because I don't even, have my matchups or anything like that done. I'm still doing my recaps for this past week and then the waiver wires for this upcoming show. But real quick, let everybody know where to find you, Britt.
Fair. I'll be back.
Sounds good, Hunter. I appreciate you coming in, man.
I write for Fighting Chance Fantasy. I'm due a weekly DFS article. It hasn't been great so far in the past 2 weeks, but even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. But if you want to find my unfiltered takes, follow me at Britt_Flynn, FLINN on Twitter. And there we go.
Love it. You guys can go check out all of our content over there at fantasyintervention.com. Once again, that's fantasyintervention.com. If y'all like what you heard, if y'all want to check us out, if y'all want to get alerts for whenever we're live, go to youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasyintervention. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. If y'all want to go follow me on Twitter, go check us out at joinourcircle_ and FF_intervention. Appreciate you guys for listening. And thank you guys for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.